And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They are open for sales and service Monday through Saturday. Let them know the DT sent you their way. And of course, it's where I've gone for over a decade for all of my vehicles. And you can go there to look at the Honda Pilot, the Ridgeline, the Accord, the Civic, the HR-V, and so on and so forth, including my favorite, the CR-V, which I have my 2025 CR-V black on black on black on black. So make sure you get out there to Great Lakes Honda City. You can get a sneak peek of what they have available to buy and lease. Their new and used vehicles are on GreatLakesHondaCity.com. With that being said, we're with you up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora's many channels, youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're connected with the show, we thank you so much for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. So I can't thank you enough for being a part of the show and hanging out with us inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. And I'm so happy that we have the opportunity to bring you today's broadcast, as it is the final broadcast of me in my 30s. This is the last broadcast that I will do inside of my 30s, because I will be turning 40 years old. Hard to believe, but I'll be turning 40 years old tomorrow, and putting that 4 right in front of it. So definitely interesting that, I feel like I've been in my 30s for a long time. I feel like it's, my 20s kind of felt like they sped by in a way. My 30s have not. So, I'm definitely going to miss it, and stepping into 40 tomorrow is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to doing it with you right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, and we'll have a good time. So it's definitely going to be something to go into a new decade. It's been a long time since I've done that. So now it's time to go ahead and step ahead, and we'll be able to celebrate that on tomorrow's broadcast on October 21st, on my actual birthday itself. So looking forward to doing that with you, and can't wait for it. So going to enjoy today, going to enjoy my last day of my 30s, and then we'll step in to the birthday tomorrow, and we'll do that together. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're staying safe. I hope things have been going well in your life. If they haven't been, I hope they get better. If they have been, I hope they continue. And I hope that no matter what, that God is guiding and guarding you throughout the entire process, every step of the way. So that's something that I hope you know more than anything. And I'm so happy to be here with you, hanging out inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. So with that being said, we're going to start off hour number 1. We're going to talk about the state of Syracuse football. And in hour number 2, we will go and branch out and expand nationally. So we'll talk very locally in my hometown of Syracuse, New York, about the state of their college football program. And then we'll go from there to a bigger look at the FBS throughout the country of 130 plus teams in NCAA football at the FBS level. We will have that conversation, and that conversation that we will have today is going to bring us to a bunch of different places. It'll bring us to every single one of the FBS conferences, and we'll be able to take a look at where things are, where the rankings are, where do I agree, where do I disagree, and that's all going to be setting up tomorrow's broadcast, where Murph, who's typically with me on a Monday, Murph will be with me in hour number 1 of my birthday broadcast this Tuesday, October 21st. He will be joining me from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time as we both unveil our brackets. Pardon me. I'm thinking about March. As we both unveil our top 25. And so we're going to be unveiling our top 25 to you. You're going to have the opportunity to see what we think about where we think the school should be. So where do we agree? Where do we disagree with the AP and the coaches poll? And then from there, what are our thoughts against each other's? Because we're not going to see what the other person has put in their top 25 until it is unveiled live. And we'll talk, of course, about Major League Baseball in the postseason, so we'll get into some of that as well. But I'm very much looking forward to it. Very exciting times for us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So I hope that you will be with us tomorrow on my birthday broadcast, as I will, for the first time ever, unveil live on the show my top 25. This past week, I unveiled my top 25 and what I would have done nationally going into this week of week 9. And so you got to see that, but this is going to be an official live unveiling, which we've never done on the show before. And I'm excited to do that with Murph. So make sure you're back here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora tomorrow morning, so we have the opportunity to share that with you. With that being said, let's jump into this first topic, and that topic being the state of Syracuse Orange football. Well, there are people that are frustrated, and I understand, because the season started out looking so strong. Now, there's a lot of people that have written in and said a lot of different things. There's been a lot of negativity, and there's also been positivity that I've seen come from you. So I would love for you to share your thoughts. If you have a thought on Syracuse football, feel free to send it over to me. You could send it to the video here on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, to the actual video itself so that I see it. And you could send it to wakeupcalldt.podbean.com as well, to that live feed, or you could send it to any of our social media, Facebook at wakeupcalldt, X at calldt, and Instagram at wakeupcall_dt. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know where you're at with this Syracuse Orange football program. I'm going to read off some thoughts that you've given, that you've sent over, and we're going to break it down, because some of these things maybe I agree with, and some of them maybe I don't. But the beauty of conversation that we've forgotten how to have in this country is that we can disagree with each other and still have a conversation. So this morning, once again, starting off the show on the state of Syracuse football, and let's get into it. And like I said, if you have a comment or you have a thought, make sure that you send it over to us. So I'm going to read some of the comments that have come through, and they came through on a bunch of different posts that I did. So there's definitely going to be messages kind of coming from all over the place. Now, Valerie, I'm going to read your message here this morning. She said, after sitting in the stands and focusing on the quarterback and his targets, I don't understand where the problem lies. It seems the quarterback and receiver were not on the same page. Who's not communicating or listening? Collins can throw the ball, but the receiver is not in the right place, or Collins can't get the ball to where he's supposed to. Maybe Carney deserves a chance to play at least a quarter to see if he can coalesce the offense. Defense was a thrill to watch. They did their job for the most part. Go Orange. And I would agree with you, Valerie. I would agree that the timing is off, right? It seems like Ricky was either throwing to a place where there wasn't anybody yet, or they were trying to get there, or he was throwing to a place too late. That can be timing of receivers. It could be wherewithal of receivers. So it could be that the timing is down, right? Here's the thing, and this is something that I addressed going into the game. It's something I addressed in the pregame. It's something I addressed with speaking with offensive coordinator Jeff Nixon of Syracuse, is that I asked him if he's going to change up his offense to fit Ricky. Now, what I mean by that is not that Ricky can't throw the ball. It was, are you going to look at adjusting your offense because he likes to pass so much? Is he willing to look at the RPO? Because to me, Ricky can use his legs, and when he did late in the game, it seemed like there was good things, and there was people talking about that. And I've been talking about him using his legs for a while here. Now, if he were to use his legs more often, and his running backs, and his check down with his tight end and his running backs, would that RPO help the team move the ball better than him standing in the pocket, because him and Steve Angeli are different? Now, in Jeff Nixon's offense, Steve Angeli in the first game on neutral ground at the Aflac kickoff in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, Georgia, Steve Angeli threw for 40 times. So I want you to make a note of this. In the first game for Syracuse this season, Syracuse had 40 pass attempts, okay? 40 pass attempts. How many rushing attempts? As a team, 44. So I want to look at this, right? I want to look at the balance of the offense. So let's go back, and that was a game where Yasin Willis had 3 touchdowns. So against Tennessee, and that was at the Aflac kickoff, Syracuse pass to rush, they had 40 passes and 44 rushes. Now, they include any time that, Steve's kind of scrambling or getting after it, so they had him down for 7. So if we take Steve out of it, then that's 37. I'll just make a note of that. Now, in the next game against UConn, which is the second game of the season, which was only Steve Angeli's third start of his career, because he played in a bowl game for Notre Dame, and after playing in that bowl game, never had a start in the regular season for Notre Dame until he came to Syracuse. So this was only his third start, and people were already losing their minds over him. So does that sound familiar? Ricky Collins just had his third start ever, and fans want him gone. Steve Angeli had his third start of his career, second with the Orange, in the UConn game, and some of the fans were cheering, "We want Ricky." Steve Angeli threw 54 times in that game. Syracuse ran the ball 28. If you take out Steve and any scrambles he did, because he's not a running quarterback, that's 22. 54 passes to 22 rushes in that UConn game. Let's look at Colgate, a game that Syracuse blew out 66-24. Against Colgate, we had a combined 37 passes between Steve Angeli and Ricky Collins. So I'm going to go ahead and jot that down here. And the rushing attack had 35 carries. Now, if we take out anything by Angeli, which is 6, and Ricky, which is 3, that's 9. And let's take out Luke Carney. Well, Luke Carney's, that was a quarterback keeper. It it looked like a designed run for him, or he just decided to take it. So I'm going to call that more of a designed run. So if we take out Angeli and Ricky Collins in those 9, then that's 26. And if you were to take out the Luke Carney, that's 25. So 37 passes to 25 rushing attempts if you take the quarterback out of it. But Luke Carney, that looked like a designed run, so I feel like we should keep that in. Now, or he just decided, hey, I'm in here for one play, I'm going to try to score. Now, if we take a look at the Clemson game, they had 39 passes at Clemson. Speaking of Syracuse. And in the rushing attack, they had 38 rushes. Now, if we take out Angeli and Collins, Collins had 3, Angeli had 4. So if we take those out, so Angeli had 3 and 4, so that's, if we take them out, that's 31 for Syracuse. Now, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the state of Syracuse football, and I'm putting together an argument and a conversation to have here. Against Duke at home, so this is Ricky Collins' first start ever in college, in 2.5 years in college. He threw 37 times. And the team carried the ball 27 times. If you take out Ricky, it's 22. And then we have the at SMU game that Syracuse faced off against a team that I consider very good, that people forget about. Ricky threw 45 times, and there was 33 rushes. If you take out Ricky's 10, there was 23. At SMU. And then the last game that Syracuse played is obviously the loss that they had to rival Pitt in the 81st chapter of this rivalry. Pitt now leads the series 45 wins to Syracuse's 33 wins, and there's 3 ties in the series back when you could tie in college football in the regular season. So Ricky and Luke, between the two of them, had 34 passes. So of those so you got 34 passes there, and then 30 carries. But if you take out Luke's 3 rushes and Ricky Collins' 9, that's 12, which means there's 18. So that's what it looks like. This is the conversation I want to have, because it's based in something that I've been talking about here for a while, and that I actually asked Jeff Nixon about. So let's take a look at Syracuse by the numbers. The Syracuse Orange, and if you have a comment or you have a thought on Syracuse football, please send it in. Like I said, I got a ton of comments from you all, and I'm going to be addressing them, looking at these. I'm not going to read them all. Some of them are disrespectful. So some of them are attacking. So there's some that are not going to be on here because obviously I'm not for personal attacks. And, people say, oh, it's my opinion. Okay, would you like someone to attack you? And then anybody that's like, yeah, I'm okay with somebody attacking me. Yeah, okay. So, the reality of it all is I think people forget that these are human beings. And I think people forget that Ricky has only started 3 games his entire collegiate football life. And there's something that I will address to that effect later on in the broadcast of what's going on here. So, first and foremost, let's go back to the numbers for Syracuse. Now, the Syracuse Orange, pass to rush, have thrown more than they've run the ball in every game that they've had this season in their 7 games. Again, if we take out the quarterback's carries, then I'm going to give you the numbers with the quarterback's carries and without the quarterback's carries. So, in the first game against Tennessee at Aflac Stadium on neutral ground in Atlanta, Georgia, Syracuse passed the ball 40 times, ran the ball 44 times. If you take out Angeli, it was 40-37. That was a very balanced game. And they actually fought back in that game. And after being down 17-0 in the first quarter, they came back and made it a game for the last 3 quarters against a team who is inside of the SEC, the toughest conference in football, and not only inside of the SEC in that high-octane football, but also ranked in the nation's top 25. Now, and almost defeated Georgia. They missed a field goal. That's how they lost to Georgia. So, UConn, in that game that Syracuse faced off against UConn, passed the ball 54 times, ran the ball 28. If you take out Steve Angeli, it's 22. So that's 54 to 22, which means that they had 32 more passes than they had rushes. 32 more passes than running the ball. Against Colgate, it was 37-35. Pretty balanced, right? But if you take out everything but what looked to be the design run by Luke Carney, it's 37-26. So 37-26 is 11 more passes than running the ball. At Clemson, it was 39-38, and Syracuse won that game. It was the first time they ever defeated Clemson at Clemson in Death Valley, and that was even more balanced than the Tennessee game, 39-38 there. If you take out Angeli and Ricky Collins' 7 rushes, then you would be at 31, which means that it was only 8 more passes than running the ball. Against Duke, it was 37-27. If you take out Ricky Collins in that game running the ball 5 times, then it's 37-22, which means it's 15 more passes than running the ball. At SMU, it was 45-33, and if you take out Ricky Collins 10 times he ran the ball, it's 45-27, 23. And if it's 45 to 23 of the ball going to actual running backs on the team, that's 22 more passes than running the ball. And against Pitt, it was 34-30. But if you take out Luke Carney, let's put it this way. Luke Carney was brought in to run the ball. He wasn't really brought in to pass. So why don't we leave in Luke Carney's 3, right? If we leave in his 3, then we're talking 21. If we take him out, it's 18. But that's 34-21, right? So that 34-21 is 13 more passes than running the ball. So in Syracuse's balanced attack against Tennessee, they almost came back into that game. In the most balanced game that they've had all season, they beat Clemson at Clemson, which they've never done. But against UConn, 32 more passes than running. And we've seen in games 32 more passes than running the ball, 11 more passes than running, 8 more passes than running, 15 more passes than running, 22 more passes than running, 13 more passes than running. Because in the Jeff Nixon offense, we saw the success of Kyle McCord, and we saw the success that was coming of Steve Angeli. Now, in Jeff Nixon's offense, and that was a point I wanted to prove, they run the ball more than they pass the ball more than they run the ball. And they haven't been giving that many opportunities to Yasin Willis as well as to Will Nixon. Yasin Willis had 13 carries in this game against Pittsburgh, only had 16 yards. Will Nixon, 5 carries for 9 yards, right? And so we're not seeing them develop the run, respect the run, and really push for it. And you would say, well, Dan, based on those numbers, they shouldn't be running the ball. And I would say to you that you have to establish the run early, and you have to push a team to respect the run. Because, Yasin Willis had 15 carries the game before at SMU. Will Nixon had 7, but they're not really focusing in on running the ball. And they're not moving the ball. And that could be a defensive line problem, an offensive line problem against the defensive line. And so we could be looking at that. Yasin Willis had 11 carries against Duke, and Will Nixon had 7. And those 11 carries for 63 yards, he went 5.7 yards a carry. Speaking of Yasin Willis, despite a 35-point loss, he was running the ball, and he was running it pretty well. Now, Syracuse's defense gave up a bunch of big plays in that game, but if you go and look at the Clemson game for Syracuse, Yasin Willis had 18 carries, which is more than any he's had in any recent game, 94 yards, 5.2 yards a carry. Will Nixon had double-digit carries, which he hasn't had in the last 3 games since beating Clemson. He had 10 carries for 46 yards, 4.6 yards a carry, and a touchdown. Now, they're on the road in that game against Clemson, and they were leaning on the run, focusing on the run, establishing the run early. This is something that I think Syracuse needs to do again. Now, I know that Jeff Nixon has success in passing the ball, and I know that bringing in Kyle McCord, it definitely worked. They picked the right guy. And Steve Angeli, it arguably looked like, potentially, they've picked the right guy. But with Ricky Collins Jr., I'm not saying that Ricky can't throw the ball. We've seen some beautiful balls that he threw in that game that fell incomplete in the matchup against Pittsburgh at home. He threw some really awesome balls down the field. But my opinion, right now, if you want to move an offense and you're struggling to move the offense and you're struggling to get your timing down, doing the same thing over and over expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. What they haven't been doing is making sure that they establish the run and establish the run early. So I would like to see them work on establishing the run. I would like to see Ricky Collins, because I've talked about he should use his feet, he should use his feet, he should use his feet, he should use his feet. And why do I think that way? Because of things I saw him do early on. It's because of moments that I've seen with Ricky that I liked. I thought that he moved very easily with his feet. Some people trip over their own feet. Some people have trouble when they're running, crossing their legs one over the other. He didn't seem to have it. It seemed to look effortless. I thought to myself, you have Yasin Willis, you have Will Nixon. You know Will is great catching the ball out of the backfield. You know Yasin's done some good things, and you know in catching the ball, and you know that the two of them together have been good getting the ball down the field and in the end zone. Because arguably the best, listen, people don't respect Duke, and Duke is a good team, and people don't respect SMU, and SMU is a good team. But let's look at the games that Syracuse has played this season. Tennessee and Clemson, really tough matchups, especially at Clemson. And in those two games, the Tennessee game and the at Clemson game, Syracuse leaned on their run. And they came back and made it a game within one possession in the last three quarters against Tennessee. They hung within one possession. I think it was 28 points for Tennessee and 24 for Syracuse, somewhere around that. So after having a bad first quarter where they went down 17-0, they hung with Tennessee. And what did they do in that game? They established the run, they leaned on the run, they trusted the run, and they kept running the ball. What did they do against Clemson? They leaned on the run, they trusted in the run, and they kept running the ball. There was that one series, I think it was the second series of the game, where Syracuse was at Clemson, and it was Yasin Willis, then Will, then Yasin, then Will, then Will, then Yasin, then Yasin again, then Will. They just kept going back and forth, and it worked. So, to me, this is one of the issues with Syracuse right now. I think they need to establish the run, lean on the run, and take advantage of the fact that they have two capable running backs in this backfield right now that have been doing a very good job. You have a backup quarterback, and I've told you time and time again when we're talking about professional football, not even college football, professional football, that there has been this world that I have seen over and over again where a backup quarterback comes into an NFL team's franchise and has to be under center because the starter got injured. And when that starter has been injured, what has that backup quarterback done? He has leaned on his running backs and he has leaned on his tight end or tight ends. That is what they have done. And it has been shown to work if they can lean on those guys and help to get them comfortable so that they can get to a point where he is airing it out a little bit more. I don't mind the dink and dunk passes. I don't mind the short yardage passes. If people want to boo in your move, I would rather people boo me when I'm moving the ball than boo me when we're not getting anything done on offense. If you don't like the way we're moving the ball, tough noogies. If we're moving the ball, we're moving the ball. And that's how I look at it. So in reality, for me, I think that it is a disservice to the Syracuse offense to not be using Yasin Willis and Will Nixon. I think they should use them more. I think it's a disservice to be using them as little as they use them. And on top of that, you have Dan Villari, okay? You have your tight end. You have a guy who I believe can make it in the NFL, who's going to get an opportunity in the NFL. Jeff Nixon believes that as well. I believe that Fran Brown also is in that world of believing that. Now, Dan Villari had 3 passes that he caught in this game for 19 yards, but they're not using Dan Villari enough. Okay? You think about it. Think about this from a basketball sense, okay? Because I'm a three-point shooter. If I'm out there having a night where I'm not making my three-point shot, it's in my brain, if I'm a little bit off, if I'm a little bit short, if it's just not falling, step in. Go in a step or two from inside the arc. Go from outside the arc, take a step in, take 2 steps in, make a shot. And once you start making those shots, then go back out. That's the same thing I feel about Ricky Collins. If you're not making those shots down the field, those shots that you're taking down the field, if the guys aren't catching that ball, then start with shorter passes and get yourself feeling good. Get your confidence up, because I think it's a mental thing on the field with Ricky. I think the mentality part of it has something to do with it. I got to win. I got to do well. These fans are expecting a lot. Steve did so well. Kyle did so well. I have to show. And he doesn't have to be those guys. He has to be Ricky. See, that's when you lose. That's when you lose, right? If Tom Hanks was trying to be Brad Pitt, he wouldn't get that many roles, because at best, you're going to be a lesser version of Brad Pitt, because you can't be Brad Pitt because you're not Brad Pitt. So you can either be the best version of Tom Hanks or the second best version of Brad Pitt. I don't want Ricky Collins to be the second best version of Steve Angeli. I want Ricky Collins to be Ricky Collins. And I think what would give him some confidence, like I said it does for me in basketball, is if taking the long shots aren't working, take shorter, shots, shorter passes. Try a 4-yard to the out. Try, Dan Villari down the middle for 5 or 6. Let him go with it. See, the thing is, you get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. You get the ball in the hands of a Dan Villari who's going to fight for another 2 or 3 yards, who's going to get you that half a yard that you may need, right? To put the ball in the hands of guys that can make moves in space like Will Nixon and Yasen Willis. To put the ball in the hands of a guy who has flashes of being very dynamic like Jonte Cook II. So that's what you need to see, okay? You don't have Steve Angeli. You're not going to have Steve Angeli. I don't want anybody on the team to try and mimic Steve Angeli. They have to be themselves, right? Now, and this is the thing, if Luke Carney is the runner, then that's something to look to as well. If you say, well, Ricky can pass it down the field, but Luke can run the ball, you have to find where you want to go and what essence of your offense you want to be. If you want, because I'm talking about running the RPO, I'm talking about short passes, check downs, and a quarterback who's willing to run if the running back is not in a good position to pitch him the ball. And maybe that's Luke Carney's offense. I said that it could be Ricky's offense. Maybe it's Luke's offense. It seems like they trust him to run more than pass, so maybe that's his offense. Maybe that's the one that he can run. But I will tell you this. He looked more comfortable under center for the time that he was out there against Pitt. He wasn't forcing the ball. He looked more comfortable. I don't think he had a lot of dangerous plays where he put the ball somewhere where it could get picked off. I think he did a good job. And so if Luke's going to run the RPO better than Ricky, then maybe that's the way that you go. But Syracuse has to make a change because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Now, let's look at, beyond that, let's look at the defense. Okay? What did I say going into the game? I said the linebackers have to step up. Somebody has to help Antoine Delorier because Antoine Delorier he's been the guy. He's been the answer for Syracuse, right? You thought that it was going to potentially be Derek McDonald leading the charge, but the guy that's been leading from the linebacker unit is the guy that is a true freshman on the team, and that's Antoine Delorier. 8 tackles in the game, led the team. 7 solo of those 8 tackles, and one of those tackles for a loss. So I said, somebody has to help out Antoine Delorier. Now, Gary Bryant III, who came in as a transfer, he was second on the team with 6 total tackles. He had 5 solo tackles and 1 tackle for a loss. So, okay, Gary Bryant steps up. And then I said we have to see an uptick in what the DBs are going to do. And it's my fault that I didn't mention Devin Grant. I said the best opportunity that they have at corner is to move Deuce Chestnut from safety back to corner. I misspoke because I forgot about Devin Grant in the moment somehow, and my apologies, Devin. Devin Grant, 3 tackles in the game, both solo. He had a sack in the game, and, of course, a tackle for a loss on that sack. So, to me, if it was Devin Grant and Deuce Chestnut, I think this is a team that's going to be better at corner because I like Devin on one side, but I want Deuce on an island again. They're keeping him at safety, and he's been quiet. I asked them why. Elijah Robinson, the defensive coordinator, said that he believes the NFL is going to look at him to play safety, speaking of Deuce Chestnut, so they're going to play him at safety now so that he has a better opportunity in the NFL. I don't think it's working. I think that he should be at corner. It is no disrespect to Demetrius Samuel Jr., who I think is getting better. I think, there's moments where he's improving. But Demetrius Samuel Jr. and Chris Peel, both of these guys being true freshman cornerbacks, I would rather put Deuce on the other side of Devin and let the freshmen learn from these gentlemen and then see them move forward. Cycle them in for a play or two. Have Demetrius Samuel be the rover. But to put him on an island, I like Devin on his island. I want to see Deuce back on an island again. That's my opinion, and I've continued to keep with it because at this point, right, you got to try things. You're 3-4. You lost your starting quarterback. you're going to have to be willing to mix it up and try some different things because, again, the definition of insanity. So going into the game, when I was at Myers Creek, Syracuse Inner Harbor with Isaac, where Wake Up Call game day is for every home game of the 2025 Syracuse Orange football season, so we'll be back there, Isaac and I, on Friday, October 31st on Halloween night. We will be there at 4:30 p.m. to pregame with you for the Syracuse game that will be at the Dome at 7:30 p.m. against North Carolina. So going into the Pitt game, I spoke about Antoine Delorier needs other linebackers to help him out, and the DBs need to start shutting things down and start minimizing opportunities for a quarterback in the open field. But none of that means anything if the defensive line does not create pressure. And what did the defensive line do in this game against Pitt? They created pressure. They ended the game with 7 sacks in the game. Kevin Jobity Jr. had 3 sacks of his own. He was a third-string defensive lineman when he was first on the scene at Syracuse. He was a third stringer. He played when multiple people got injured. Now he's a starter at D tackle. He had 3 sacks in this game, and Devin Grant, who I mentioned, had a sack. David Reese finally got home. He got a sack. Jamie Tremble got another sack, being moved from tight end to linebacker. And Chase Simmons and Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff, they shared a sack early on in the game, which gave the team 7 total sacks. So let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. The defense showed up. In the game against Pitt. I don't know, for the people that wrote into me and said the defense wasn't there, like the team was terrible, the entire team, they obviously weren't paying attention, or they were just so mad that it clouded their vision because the defense, and looking at the fact, well, the defense gave up 30 points. The defense was on the field a lot in this game. And the defense, listen, there was 3 interceptions in the game. So that's 3 extra possessions for Pitt that Pitt did not need, but Syracuse gave it to them. You never want to help out your opponent, and Syracuse's offense helped them out. That's not the defense's fault. The defense did a lot of good things. Like I said, 7 sacks in this game, 12 tackles for a loss in the matchup. So a lot of good things coming from this. You know, you look at Cornell Perry, who on special teams recovered the onside kick. So there was positives on special teams. There was positives within the defensive line, positives within the DBs, positives within the linebacker unit. Ultimately, this was a game, like I titled in my game story that you can read on wakeupcalldt.com, Syracuse's offense was MIA in the loss to Pitt. They just were. The offense doesn't look the same. And so what are my notes for the future? Well, the defense showed up at Clemson and then somehow fell asleep against Duke and at SMU. Then the defense woke up again against Pitt. You can't keep doing that theme. Wake up, go to sleep for 2, wake up again. Because if you wake up, go to sleep for 2, and wake up again, Syracuse has 7 games in. They got 12 this season. So if they are to follow the pattern and go asleep for 2, that would make them 3-6, meaning that they would have to win their last 3 games just to hope to get to a bowl game at 6-6. This defense cannot afford to fall asleep again. This defense has to continue to grow and learn. They minimized Tennessee in the last 3 quarters. They aided the team in playing better against Tennessee in that opening game. After the first quarter, in the last 3 quarters, Syracuse started catching up offensively, and the defense was not giving up like they gave up in the first quarter, right, against Tennessee. So we could say the defense maybe had some better moves there. Even though it didn't look like it on the field, the game was a lot closer. If the defense continued what they were doing in the first quarter against Tennessee, then Syracuse would have lost by a lot in that matchup. And instead, in the last 3 quarters, they made it closer. So there's been defensive moments, right? Against Colgate, you expect the defense to play well, which they did. But, you know, in the UConn game, Antoine Delorier deflecting the pass, and so him saving that game in overtime. But then the defense having their best games at Clemson and against Pitt. One of them is a win, one of them is a loss. And now the defense just has to continue to do that. Keep creating pressure. Keep getting the defensive backs, these young defensive backs, more experience. And hopefully that more experience that they have will help them in making better decisions, because the more experience, hopefully they'll gain more wisdom and more knowledge of where they need to be and what they need to do and when they need to do it. And Antoine Delorier and Gary Bryant, hopefully they can lead the charge there. Even though they're both newcomers to the team, it's like, hey, next man up. So I think the defense is the brightest spot, clearly, of this game against Pitt. And offensively, I'm not sitting here chastising Ricky and saying all these horrible things about Ricky. Number one, he's a child of God. Number two, how would you want somebody to speak about your children or about you? Number three, this was his third start in 2.5 years in college football. Number four, I'd like to see any fan out there and go out there and do better. Number five, typically when a team loses their starting quarterback, they look like a shell of themselves. Typically. It is atypical that the backup quarterback comes in and the team looks just as good, if not better. It is atypical. Is Minnesota the same with Carson Wentz that they are with J.J. McCarthy? No, they're not. Okay? That's reality. When Tua goes out, does Miami ever look the same? No. Now, there's certain teams where it has worked. A Mac Jones San Francisco 49ers team looks better than a Brock Purdy San Francisco 49ers team, right? It just does. Michael Penix Jr. was brought in to be the starter, so I don't know if that's a fair argument between him and Kirk Cousins, because he was brought in to be the starter. They drafted him early. They drafted him in the top 10. So, but there are other teams where your backup quarterback. Remember Troy Aikman when he would go down for the Cowboys and I think it was Wade Wilson would come in, Jason Garrett would come in, nothing, right? The team, it was like, if Troy goes down, we're not going to the playoffs. Could you imagine if Tom Brady went down with the Patriots, what the Patriots would look like more often than not? What did the Jets look like when Aaron Rodgers wasn't available? So when the starting quarterback goes down, more often than not, the offense and the team is not the same, because the quarterback is the leader of the offense. And the quarterback, in other cases, is the leader of the entire team. And what did Fran Brown say to me about what made Steve Angeli different? When I said beyond everything else, beyond his throwing ability and all that stuff, what was it about Steve that separated him? What did Fran say to me in fall camp? Do you remember? He said, Steve Angeli makes relationships with everybody on the team. He has a relationship, like he saw him have a relationship with every single person on the team. And that spoke to Fran. The fact that Steve has a personal relationship with every single person on the team. There's over 100 players on the team. And he's telling us that that was something that helped him separate Steve and Ricky, relationships. Then I asked Ricky about his relationships with the wide receivers. Now, keep in mind, Ricky had more time with some of these wide receivers because he was there in the spring and Steve wasn't. Plus, he had the summer when Steve wasn't there. And he was there in the fall with Steve. And I asked Ricky, when he became the starter after the Clemson game, about his relationships with the skill players, with the receivers and whatnot. And he said he was working on them. And that concerned me. And after he said that, I asked him before SMU about it, and he said he was still working on those relationships. Those relationships, in my opinion, Steve, that was the difference. One of the difference makers for Fran is that Steve's got a relationship with everybody on the team. So Steve came in only in the fall and has a relationship with everybody on the team. Ricky's been here from the bowl game in San Diego all the way through to the spring and the summer and the fall, and he doesn't have the relationships. He doesn't have them. He's working on them still. Then that says something to me. That says something to me. Because if they were both fighting to be the starter in the fall, and through the first two scrimmages, it was still neck and neck, if we are to believe the head coach, the offensive and defensive coordinators who all said that, if that was the case in Syracuse, then shouldn't they both have relationships? Because you can't say, well, Ricky's working with the twos, Steve's working with the ones. No, in fall camp, if they're both fighting to be the starter, they're both working with the ones. We saw them both with the GoPros throwing the ball to receivers that are out there right now. So why weren't those relationships there before? That's something that I ask myself. And that's something that maybe Ricky asks himself or has to ask himself is why doesn't he have those relationships like Steve does? Because I know they're different people and that's all well and good. But if you're still working mid-season to have relationships with guys that you had a heck of a lot more time with than Steve Angeli, I'm wondering why those relationships are not being fostered. Are you not spending enough time on them? Are those that you're trying to build a relationship with not interested? What's going on with that? Because as we heard from Valerie, who wrote in to the show on Facebook, Valerie talking about the fact that it seems like the timing is down, that they're not in sync, that Ricky's not in sync with his receivers. So defense got to keep doing what they're doing. Can't take any games off. And then the offense is really going to have to get this ball moving. You're going to have to get interesting. You're going to have to get willing to do some different things, play to your skill talents, and make a decision. If you want to be an RPO and you want to move the ball slowly and systematically down the field, guess what that's going to do? It's going to take time off the clock. And Syracuse needs that right now. Take time off the clock. Make the most of your possessions and minimize the possessions for the other team. Okay? It doesn't have to be pretty, but I'd rather Syracuse win an ugly game than lose a game where they look really pretty, right? And we've already seen that theme earlier on this season. Would you rather win ugly or lose pretty? And so the relationship factor with Ricky, I hope that whatever's stopping that thing gets out of the way for whatever reason, that those relationships aren't there. And the defense keeps being the defense, keeps doing good things. Special teams keeps working hard and doing good things. They're going to have to shore some things up. The onside kick was great. Giving up a punt return for a touchdown was ridiculous. And guy ran right through the middle, right? Catch the ball, run through while everybody's running at you. Really smart. If you can get it done and you can move swiftly and you got the right, if you got the space and you got the lane and you can move quickly, then yeah, those guys are going to be running by you. And by the time that they stop themselves, turn around, change direction, and start running after you, if you got the legs, then you can do it. So, there are things that the special teams definitely needs to get better at. But, this is an offensive issue. And what I don't agree with that Jeff Nixon and I talked about is he said Ricky coming in and the offense not moving is just a coincidence. And to me, that's a ridiculous statement. You got the same offensive line, the same running backs, the same tight end, and the same receivers. And you're telling me that it's simply a coincidence that it was moving and seemingly getting better under Steve, and then it just stopped under Ricky. That if Steve was in, it would have stopped anyways. Like, if Steve was still the quarterback, the offense would have just sputtered out and stopped. I don't believe that. So they're going to have to figure out what's going on. They're going to have to figure out relationships, and they're going to have to figure out what offense is best going to serve Ricky or best going to serve Luke to move the ball forward, because it ain't working right now. And they're going to have to figure out what they need to do here. So we have some comments that have come in. I'm going to read some of those before we take a break. Dan said, seems like Ricky is such a nice kid. I don't think the staff is using his talents properly. He needs to run the ball periodically. Okay, Dan, going off of what I said. Christopher said, Ricky, pick your head up. You have nothing to be sad about. You're a young quarterback being thrown to the wolves. This will make you a better quarterback. Own it, work hard with Coach Fran, and trust the process. You're going to be a stud. All right, positives. I love it, Christopher. Thank you. Joseph said, what a horrible return on investment. Remember, these kids are pros now. You can't say that, Joe. Just because they're getting paid doesn't make stop. Because writing that is insinuating that these guys are like NFL caliber. And that's not the case. Is Arch Manning NFL caliber right now? I wouldn't say he's an NFL quarterback right now. Brian said this guy is not good, let's face it. So, mixed reviews. And then on Ricky, we got some other comments that came in here. I know some people are mad that Isaac and I were positive. Like my grandmother said, what's the alternative? GE said, but with the NIL, will that young talent be around next year? So with name, image, and likeness, the young talent that needs to grow, is it going to be around? That's a good question, man. That's a really good question, GE. And I appreciate you. That's not a question I can answer. That's an individual question to each player. Now, Jack said time management still a problem, right? Should Fran have just run the ball, gotten the clock down, forced Pitt to use their timeouts so then they don't get the ball back and they don't return that kick right before halftime and get the ball back, which Fran said. Fran talked about his mistakes and his blunders, spoke about that after the game. And he said, if you're going to boo me. Don't boo my players. Tim said, Carney played all right, taking him out on 3rd and 9 to put Collins back in, who had approximately 65 yards passing in the first half, was one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen since about 30 minutes before that at the end of the first half when they mismanaged the clock and handed Pitt a touchdown. All right, Tim, I can't disagree with you there. He said, 1, taking Carney out told the defense you are no doubt going to pass. True. 2, it's same thing when they used to put in Tim Tebow on the Jets. Every time they brought Tebow in, they were running the ball. And I just thought it was stupid that the Jets are like, oh, we're going to bring in Tebow for Tebow's package, but his package, they never did anything but run the ball with him. So the package told you exactly what they were going to do, which put Tim in harm's way. And in my thoughts with Ricky, puts Ricky in harm's way of throwing an interception because they expect the pass. So you're kind of throwing somebody to the wolves, telling everyone you're going to be one-dimensional. Isn't bringing in somebody supposed to bring an element of surprise, not a almost concrete, this is what's going to happen? So I agree with you there. 2, it tells Carney you have no confidence he can execute a 3rd and long. Well, I'm thinking, based on what Fran said after the game, Tim, that, Fran said Luke knows very little of the offense, which that concerns me as well, because doesn't everybody get the playbook? So that is something else that concerns me. So I don't know if it was that they don't trust him on 3rd and long. It looked like they didn't want him to pass the ball hardly at all. They only wanted him to run the ball. And then it says Coach Brown could not have screwed both those situations up more if he was trying to do it on purpose. It's becoming a circus. Well, Tim, I can't disagree with you that those moves were not good moves. Eddie said, new season. And then John said, agree, but he needs to coach, not come up with narratives. All that said, I'm a big fan of Brown. Narratives meaning DART, detailed, accountable, relentless, and tough. Well, this team is not being detailed right now. They're not all being accountable. They were somewhat relentless because they didn't give up. And the defense was tough, but the offense wasn't in this game. Steve said Carney needs to play more at Georgia Tech. Well, we'll see. Because after the game in that press conference, Fran did not state that he was for sure going to Ricky or Luke, or if he wasn't going to use both. Mike said, unfortunately, the coaching staff didn't let him continue. Speaking of Luke, Fran Brown's staff looked very bad tonight. Okay. Gary said, I don't know, man. Angeli going down was bad, just bad, I tell you. Well, obviously, he's the starter. Fran said, that's not a knock on you, Gary, but I mean, that's an obvious thing here that Steve going out. Again, I'll address that after I'm finished reading these. Fran said, sorry excuse for an offense, comedy of errors. Michael Antonio said, what a total cluster. MJ said, I believe he played a series against Colgate. Yeah, because that's when I had put that he was coming out first game. I should have said he was coming out as somebody to lead the team as opposed to leading one play, because he did play one play against Colgate because Ricky Collins' helmet came off. and that was a 9-yard keeper where whether it was made for Luke to do it or not, it was like hike, and Luke was like, I'm going to the end zone, and he scored. So how about that? Luke's a true freshman out of Texas. Luke, being a true freshman, in his first game on his first play, scored a touchdown in that game against Colgate. Craig said it was his second college game. Okay. So Richard said, didn't give him a chance at all. When do we get to see him pass the ball? Amen. So I can agree with that. Harvey said maybe they didn't want to show as much to Pitt too, because maybe they're like, hey, we're going to test putting Luke out there, and let's not show Georgia Tech, who we consider a better team. Harvey said, losing again, what is happening with this team? What's happening with this team is that they don't have their starting quarterback. Mike said, Mike W., the brief Carney sighting was confusing. What was the plan? 2 plays and then retired? If there's a chance he burns his redshirt year, then make that decision now. Go all in, let him play meaningful time. I don't think a single fan is concerned about a quarterback, quote-unquote, controversy at this point. Mike, I look at it like this. In the world of NIL, I mean, yeah, if you play Luke Carney in 4 games or less, and how many games does Syracuse have left? 5. If they play him in 4 games or less, then, they can redshirt him this year. So this game counts. And then if he was to play 4 of the next 5, do you want to burn a red shirt? Probably, or not 4 of the next 5, pardon me, because he played in this game. So you have to play 3 of the next 5 or less to be able to use his red shirt. But in the world of NIL, are you even concerned about that? Because guys want to play now. So if you play Luke and you lean on Luke, then maybe that's how you keep Luke. I think they got a better chance of keeping Ricky than Luke, because I don't think Ricky's going to have the market. Luke might have the market because Luke's got the upside, and Luke's got the factor of, well, we don't know how good he can be. He could be a steal for us. Speaking of another team, than Syracuse. So I think the more you play Luke, the better chance you have of keeping him for next year, in my opinion. Richard said Pittsburgh has been very tough on defense this season. Obviously, penalties, both teams with 25 or more flags in the game. Yeah, there's 25 flags in the game, 13 for Pitt, 12 for Syracuse. He said, I'm not disappointed in the Orange, just wish we could get through a season without injuries that set us back each season. Amen. No different than most football teams. Take a good look at NFL injuries for each team. Exactly what I said, Richard. Phil said, hats off to the defense. They brought it. Amen. Mark C. said, basketball starts next month. Thank God this train wreck needs to end. And I said, yeah. And then you'll go to basketball season and there'll be fans booing the basketball coach and the basketball team. So what's the difference? So just stop booing your home team. William said, we got lacrosse to look forward to. I said, don't be that guy. Corey M. said, now just let Luke throw it. John said, sorry for the players today. John B. again said, sorry for the players today. Coaches were terrible. The person who needs to, quote unquote, grow the most is Fran Brown. Coaching's not all about stories and narratives. You have to teach and direct. You need to manage the game. I'm a big Fran Brown fan, but he needs to be less about stories and more about coaching. Kudos to the D. Made a couple of steps forward. Nice. So I don't know why people are attacking Fran's narratives and stories, because there's nothing wrong with Dart and CCT. I do agree he's got to manage the clock. He has to be good with his timeouts. He has to be good with his decision-making. He's got to override some things that maybe he doesn't agree with that Jeff Nixon or Elijah Robinson want to do. He's the head coach, so he gets the veto. And I think he can grow as a coach. But again, he's a first-time coach coming off of his first season last season. And he had a quarterback who led the entire country in passing yards. Anthony said, I'm sure all the negative fans have lives that are just perfect with no ups and downs and have coached their kids' T-ball teams to undefeated seasons. This team lost their most important and maybe best player. Try and support this team rather than booing them, or get a life. And Anthony, I agree. I definitely agree. Because it is so easy to be the one who criticizes and so hard to be the criticized. So let me make a statement before we take a step aside about Syracuse football. And it's going off of what Anthony said, and it's going off of what some other people were saying. Your expectation of Syracuse. I'm not here to knock Ricky or Luke or Jakari or anybody else that's quarterback on this team. So let me preface by saying that. But you got to hear me out. Syracuse was 3-1 with Steve Angeli. He was leading the nation in passing yards. He went into the Clemson game with over 400 yards more than Cade Klubnik, a better touchdown to interception ratio than Cade Klubnik, a better completion percentage than Cade Klubnik, and Cade Klubnik had been the starter for Clemson for multiple years. You didn't just lose a quarterback. You lost one of the potential best quarterbacks of the entire country this season. So for fans to be flipping out, losing their minds, screaming and booing and yelling over a team as if Steve was still the quarterback. And this is what I think one of the problems is. The team was 3-1 and people are looking at the record. They're not looking at what happened. You lost your most important piece. You lost your most important piece. How many people can name 10 players on the Patriots before Tom Brady became the quarterback? The Tennessee Titans, they drafted Malik Willis. It didn't work. They drafted Will Levis. It didn't work. They drafted Cam Ward. It hasn't worked. Okay? Are people sitting here going, well, their defense is really good and they're running back? No, they don't have a good quarterback. They're not winning. The New York Jets have not made a good decision at quarterback or not had quarterbacks be healthy. And what has happened? They can't move the ball. They're the only winless team in the country of 32 NFL franchises at 0-7. I'm not just talking about football. I'm going pro. Let's not just go college. Let's go pro. Because people are saying, well, these guys get paid now, so they're pros. Number one, not everybody gets paid, arguably. Right? Because schools get to figure out what they want to give and how they want to give it and all that good stuff. So number one, not everybody gets paid. Number two, just because you're getting paid, they say, well, that makes you a professional, not an amateur. Okay. In the workforce, you're getting a paycheck, right? But that doesn't make you a pro. Because in that sense, if 3,000 people are getting paid NIL money, does that mean if you're saying, well, they're all pro, so they need to play better, those 3,000 guys aren't all going to make the NFL? Maybe 40 of them do. Right? Not 3,000. Maybe a couple hundred. Right? The draft has over 200. Let's say half of them pan out. That's not 3,000. Not everybody is going to pan out. So to say, well, they're professionals, you're using a monetary argument to argue talent. And you can't do that. Because how many times have guys been paid in the NFL that don't show the talent? Ryan Leaf, second overall pick. He made a lot of money. How did he pan out? So just because somebody's getting paid doesn't make them a professional. Just because you put a suit on doesn't make you a business person. Just because you wear a dress doesn't mean you're classy. So that argument is null and void. Because that doesn't mean anything to me. Okay? If I brought somebody to Dan Tortora Broadcast Media and I paid them and they slacked off and never got anything done, they're professionals because they're getting paid, but are they acting professionally? Are they doing their job? No. Okay? So that's a stupid argument. Well, you pay them so they should be able to throw the ball. They're on your roster, so you're hoping that they can throw the ball. But does every quarterback pan out in the country? How many Heisman hopefuls fall off the radar? Lenora Sellers was being talked about as potential Heisman guy. I thought about that. He's not in the running right now. And he's making buku bucks, right? So just because you're getting paid doesn't mean that you're the top person. The person who makes the most money may not be the most talented. That happens a lot. So, getting back to my point, there's a reason why, and Fran said it. I've been saying this for months, and Fran said it in the post-game press conference. There's a reason why they brought in Steve, right? They needed something more. If Ricky was enough, and they were confident that Ricky was the guy, he wouldn't have gotten Steve. He wouldn't have gone out and gotten Steve, and he wouldn't have given Steve the keys to the offense. Think about this. If Ricky was exactly what Fran thought was going to get this team to the promised land in the best way possible, why would he go get Steve, and why would Steve win the job? Ricky is the backup quarterback. It doesn't mean he can't be the starter. It doesn't mean he can't earn the right and earn the respect and do what needs to be done. But Steve was a step ahead of him. He was. I'm not saying that to knock Ricky. I'm saying that because it's true. The staff believed that Steve was the best bet that they had to win, which is why he was out there. So fans looking at a 3-1 team saying, why do y'all suck all of a sudden? You lost your best asset. I can't name one NFL team with a crappy quarterback situation that is vying for the Super Bowl. You can have everything right. From your linebackers to your D-line to your O-line to your running backs to your tight ends to your kicker to your long snapper, your punter. But if you don't have a good quarterback, if you don't have an upper echelon quarterback, you are not going anywhere. You're not. What was Cincinnati without Joe Burrow? Jake Browning wasn't winning games. Not many. Then they brought in Joe Flacco. And what'd they do? They came back and they won. Against a quarterback who has 36 comebacks in Aaron Rodgers. But he doesn't have 37 because of Joe Flacco. Okay? There's a reason why you bring somebody in. Cincinnati didn't think Jake Browning was cutting it, so they brought in Joe Flacco. Same thing for Syracuse. They didn't think Ricky Collins Jr. was cutting it, so they brought in Steve Angeli. And Steve Angeli got hurt. So why are people looking at a 3-1 Syracuse team saying, why do y'all suck all of a sudden, acting like this is a Steve Angeli-led team that was 3-1 and somehow is just not looking like themselves, instead of looking at the reality of you lost your most important piece. I'm not surprised this team is struggling. I picked them to be 8-4 in the preseason. So did Isaac. But we're allowed to, that was with a healthy Steve Angeli. We're allowed to adjust that pick. Looking at the team now, it's a different team now. It's led by somebody else now. And I think this Syracuse team has a shot of being 5-7. They have a shot of being 5-7. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia Tech on the road. I don't think they're going to beat Miami on the road. I don't think they're going to beat Notre Dame on the road. If they could beat North Carolina and they could beat BC, then they can get to 5. And that's not me being negative, and that's not me being hateful. That's me being honest. I'm an impartial broadcaster. That's my job. That is my job. When I say Syracuse is going to win a bunch of games, people call me a homer, rose-colored glasses. And then I've been right, and nobody gives me credit. And then when I say I don't think this team is going to play as well, and I think they're going to be 5-7 as opposed to 8-4, then somebody could say, well, why being negative, Dan? Because some people are never happy. Those are the people that boo their own team. If you come to the Dome and boo your own team, don't come to the Dome anymore. Give your tickets to somebody else. Give them to a homeless person. I don't care. Give them to somebody that would appreciate being in the Dome. Booing your own team is disgraceful. It's irrational. It's illogical. It's stupid. It's ugly. There's not enough words in the English dictionary for how embarrassing it is to look at the Dome in the fourth quarter and there's like maybe 1,000 people in a 47,000, 48,000 seat stadium. And what are some of y'all going to say? Well, if they win, I would show up. No, you wouldn't, because you don't. They've not had one sellout this whole year because the Duke sellout wasn't a sellout. There was giant open spaces. And I don't know who was calling that a sellout that was lying to everybody. That's why I refuse to call it until I see it. Because I've been at a bunch of games where the announced attendance ain't the attendance. And then I've been at games where you look at the announced attendance and you're like, yeah, probably. You know, being at AT&T Stadium for the Cotton Bowl, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of people here. And you look at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl that's played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta where Syracuse started the season with the athletic kickoff. And when they tell you about the number of people that's in there, you're like, yeah, there's probably 70,000 people in here. But Syracuse fans, you need to understand something, okay? If you walk out and leave the team, why the hell wouldn't they want to transfer? If you boo them, why the hell wouldn't they want to transfer? And to all the recruits that were in the stands at that Pitt game, why the hell would they come here watching you leave and boo? You're creating the thing that you don't want. So if some Syracuse fans want to know why this team is losing, some of it's your fault. Some of it is. This is my city. I'm allowed. I could say what I could say it. Some of this is your fault. You don't show up. When you show up, you leave. Before you leave, you boo. Those recruits go, holy crap, this city hates itself. These people leave. These people walk out on you and they boo you and they disrespect you. I'm not coming. And then Syracuse fans say, why aren't they coming? And then they show up and they boo. And then they don't come. And then they say, why aren't they coming? And then they show up and they boo. And then they say, well, why would I come here? And it just keeps going around and around and around and around. So you want to know what the problem is about Syracuse football? Yeah, some of it's coaching. Some of it's time management. Some of it's calling a better play. Some of it's putting this guy here and not there. Some of it's the fans. Because if I'm recruited by Syracuse, if I'm recruited by Pitt right now, they don't have a coach, right? But I go to their arena. There's over 100,000 seats. It's more than double the size of Syracuse's dome, right? So I go there. There's 90,000 people screaming, yelling, having fun, having a good time. If I go to visit them right now, they don't have a head coach. They got an interim. And I see those fans rocking, and they're not booing their own team and they're having fun, I'd be like, holy crap, this team is going through hell and the fans still showed up. I don't understand this boo your own team. I don't understand what Jimbo Fisher went through at the end of his time at Florida State. Like, I don't get that. Well, Dan, we're allowed to voice our opinion. Yeah, you are allowed to voice your opinion. But again, why doesn't anybody walk a mile in somebody else's shoes? Take yourself, the booing fan, and turn yourself into Ricky Collins. Now you're in Ricky Collins' body. And you're getting booed by your own fans in your own city that you're going to see at the supermarket, that you're going to see when you walk down the street, that you're going to see when you're driving on Erie Boulevard, that you're going to see when you're in the mall. You're being booed by your own city. Why the hell would you want to stay there? I think, and the media is at fault with some things too. I think the media and the fans didn't help the Malachi Richardson leave an early situation, the Tyler Ennis situation, the Tyler Lydon situation. Accountability is something because people want everybody else to be accountable. But accountability is one of those things that got to go both ways. Now, Kiki said, I'm not a Syracuse fan nor a football fan, but if a sports team loses and show no willingness to at least work hard, they need booing. Well, Kiki, I'll tell you this. I didn't see a Syracuse team that wasn't working hard. I didn't see a Syracuse team that gave up. I've seen a lot of Syracuse losses, and I appreciate the comment because it's provoking the conversation. I have seen a lot of Syracuse losses where it was wind out of the sails, and I walked out of that dome embarrassed. I walked out of that dome feeling like, damn, there's a big old gray cloud over this team. I didn't walk out of there thinking that. My words walking out to Isaac, who is with me with Tortora and Alfred, and our Wake Up Call Game Day Live show that we do at the Syracuse Inner Harbor at Myers Creek. I said to Isaac, I go, this don't feel like some of them other losses because this team fought. And Fran brought that up. He said, my job is to get these guys ready and to lead them in to fight, to keep fighting. And they did fight. So, yeah, they did work hard, Kiki. They showed the willingness to do that. And, you know, the booing your fans, booing your team at home, all I'm saying is it don't help you. Right? It don't help you. Because when you're down by 10, that's when you need the fans the most. And this is something that's always confused me. Why do fans shut up when a team's losing? When you're winning, it's easy to cheer and get up. Oh, you know, like it's easy to do that when you're winning. Okay? When you're winning, that's great. If I'm the quarterback and I'm on the field and we're up by 17 and you're cheering, yeah, we're all having fun. But if we're down by 17 and there's 12 minutes to play, I need your butt off your seat and I need you cheering. I need you cheering. I need you being loud when the other team's on offense. Why would a fan base be quiet when you're losing? Because that's when you need them the most. Kiki said if they fight, they deserve support. Yeah. And they did fight. And they are fighting. And I'm going to say something that might be unpopular, but I think Ricky Collins, in my opinion, I think that he grew up a little bit in this game. You might not see it on the field, but I saw it in the man after the game and how he spoke to me and how he addressed me and what he said to me. I feel like that man has grown up a little bit. This could be a confidence thing. It could be a mental thing. It could be the fans want Steve and all they're getting is me. And if he talks to himself like that, he's going to play like crap. He's going to play like crap. Ricky's got to be Ricky. Who cares what they wanted? You know, Fran was asked after the game by somebody in the media, he was asked, what do you say to Ricky? He said, I told Ricky I love him and they don't know him. He said, I love you and they don't know you. They don't know you. Speaking about the people booing him, they don't know you. They don't. Because most of the boos that you're going to get in your life are going to come from total strangers that don't know anything about your story, what you're going through, how you got there. They don't know anything. They just know what they see in the moment. Right? And when you realize that the people that cheer the loudest for you are the same people that boo the loudest for you, against you, then you stop caring what people think. If I was Ricky Collins right now, in the UConn game, I heard people say, we want Ricky. And then I heard people boo me. So you know what I'm thinking? Y'all told me you loved me and told me you hated me in the span of a month and a half, 2 months. Why am I going to trust your feelings for me? If it's up and down and up and down. Would you date somebody that loves you on Monday, cheats on you on Tuesday, beats you on Wednesday, and loves you again on Thursday? Only if you're a psychopath. So let's be real about relationships. You can be frustrated with your team. You can constructively criticize your team. But how has the human race forgotten something very simple? The golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Do not talk to someone how you would not want to be spoken to. Do not treat someone how you wouldn't want to be treated. I challenge the people that have been most vile in their language and in their action, how they would respond if somebody treated them the exact same way in their office or inside of their home. There's this really interesting thing about how people call themselves fans and they think that they have a right to attack somebody, but then watch how that person would respond if they got hazed and attacked and screamed at and threatened in their cubicle, in their office, where they're cowering in the corner right now listening to this because they don't know what to do. Because only a bully comes out and seeks to hurt somebody else. When I'm frustrated, I'm frustrated. Right? If I want something to be better, right? If I have a family member and they're not treating me well, do I boo them, scream at them, call them names, throw things at them? But fans feel like they have the right to do that to a stranger. I'm just painting a picture here. I'm just painting a picture. Okay? If you get in a fight with your parents, do you scream at them, tell them they suck, tell them to kill themselves, tell them that you hate them, and just boo, stand in the kitchen and boo in their face? Probably not, most of you. Seek help if you do. How many of you are dating someone and when they don't do something that you were hoping that they do, how many of you scream at them and threaten them and hate them and tell them that you want them to kill themselves and boo them? Your wife doesn't want to see the movie you want to see. You got your kids in the back. Do you look at her and just scream at the top of your lungs and boo and get a clapper and just start shaking the clapper, booing her, doing the clapper thing, getting the megaphone, you suck, kill yourself? Are you doing that to your wife? Probably not. Probably not. Right? So, what I'm saying is, we treat sports as if it doesn't parallel life. That we have the right to be a trash panda as a fan inside of a stadium, but that we have to be like a kind, well put together human being in every other venue. Right? I'm not saying you have to be happy with a team that's losing. I'm saying stop treating this team like Steve Angeli's still the quarterback. Stop treating this team like everybody's healthy and they went from 3-1 to 3-4. They lost the most important part of a football team. And when I say that, I'm not knocking any other position. I'm stating a fact. I don't know if I can name any team in the history of football that had every piece and didn't have a good quarterback or didn't have a quarterback that was moving the ball down the field and they won. Like, you have to have that piece. No matter how well your defense plays, you got to be able to score. And not having Steve should provoke people to give Ricky some more time. I mean, you're attacking Ricky like he's been in the team, like they just went from 3-1 to 3-4. You lost the nation's leading person in passing yards. The nation, not Syracuse, the nation. Not the ACC, the nation. Okay? That's a big loss. And now you're trying to figure it out with the backup quarterback, which 9 times out of 10 never looks as good as a starting quarterback. Historically, backup quarterbacks do not look better than the starters because why? They're a backup for a reason. There was something missing. There was something not there. Even if it was a sliver of difference, it's not there. And I'm not saying that to knock Ricky. I'm saying that to say give Syracuse a little bit more time. Give Ricky a little bit more time. He started 3 games in 2.5 years. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying if he continues to throw interceptions and take sacks and not look comfortable that you don't make a change. But I'm also saying that if you are a fan that goes to a game and you boo your home team, then don't complain when you don't get recruits. Because if I was a recruit and I came to visit Syracuse and I had no connection to Syracuse and I saw you boo and I saw 40,000 people become 2,000 people before the end of the game, I'd be like, wow, if I come to this city, I got a chance of being booed and have everybody abandon me. Sounds great. Why don't I just run to the table to sign this contract? The Kansas City Chiefs had renovations to their stadium when they were a 2-14 team. Right? Some fans show up even when the team is struggling. There's Syracuse fans that won't show up when the team's winning. Right? So all I'm saying is the environment in which Syracuse plays in is part of the problem because recruits are not going to want to come to a booing fan base that abandons their program. They're just not. Okay? I understand people are frustrated. I understand you have reasons to be. I'm frustrated too. Constructively criticizing them is totally okay. And I read off a bunch of comments where people were acting like human beings and it's like, okay, these are their opinions, these are their thoughts, but they're acting like human beings. So, okay, I'm going to read these opinions. Then there's other people that just look like they're the Tasmanian devil or the Wile E. Coyote, and I think you're fit for a straitjacket. Okay? I know fan bases get upset. I know they get frustrated. But if somebody's out there doing the best they can in any walk of life, I don't think booing's ever going to make it better. At all. And again, of the 30,000 people that showed up to the Syracuse game, how many of you would handle well somebody coming to your office today, booing, shaking your cubicle, pouring coffee on you, telling you suck, your parents should be ashamed of yourself, and you should kill yourself? How many of you could handle that well? And how many of you would enjoy that today? Would you enjoy the behavior? Because we've seemed to have lost in society the rationale of and the complete statement of why are we happy doing things to other people that we would never want done to us? Why is it all about pleasing yourself and then spitting on other people? We've become way too comfortable being animalistic than being human. I mean, there's somebody that called for Fran Brown's job. So last week, people are talking, is Fran going to leave for Penn State? And now I got people writing on my feed saying Fran should be fired. But I thought y'all loved him. What'd I say to Isaac? I said, they got a tough schedule this year. Let's see how quick they turn on him. Because I've been around this thing a long time, folks. I know the media's chess moves. I can write down on a piece of paper and tell you, here are my predictions of what's going to happen. And then when you see it unfold, it's like, yep, because This is how they go. They love you. They befriend you. They try to get close to you, to get interviews and to get exclusives and get all this stuff. That when you start losing, they start attacking. The same people that gave you a hug and kissed you on the cheek are the same people with pitchforks and torches at your doorstep. That's the majority of the media. And then I get chastised by some people because I'm positive toward Fran when he's losing. So that's how you want people to be in your life? That's how you want us to be? That's how I should treat you? So let's say you had a good sales month. So I'm clapping you up. I'm taking you to dinner. I'm having fun with you. Let's say next month, your sales are down half. So I spit on you. I take your girlfriend. I have sex with your girlfriend. I tell you that you're a terrible person. I tell you we're not friends anymore. I start doing all these things to ruffle up your life. Does that make sense to you? When you're doing well, I got your back. When you're doing bad, I'm going to steal from you. I'm going to smack you. I'm going to spit on you. I'm going to yell at you. Is that how you'd want people to be in your life? Do you live such a perfect life that you've never done anything wrong? Because let's be real about something. At some point in our lives, we've all done something where somebody probably should have booed us, right? Because we did something we shouldn't have done, right? It was a booable moment, a moment where we very fairly should have been criticized. I'm not saying be happy that Syracuse is 3-4. I'm saying they were 3-1 with a different quarterback. They're 0-3 with this quarterback. Those are also his first 3 starts in his life in college. So I'm saying be rational, be fair, and you could be upset, but be upset in such a way that you would want God to treat you right now. Okay? If you're willing to flip a mattress on somebody, then be okay with somebody flipping it on you. Right? Walking into your bed, taking your mattress, flipping it over, you hit the floor, and then they grab a blowhorn and they put it right in your ear. If that's what you want to do to somebody, then let it be done to you. Everything you do and say, if you're okay having it back at you, then let's have it. Because the reality all is the best salespeople had a bad day, right? The best lawyer didn't win all their cases, right? The best frog jumping on lily pads missed one today. Fell in the water. Because we're not God. And we expect our sports teams to be perfect. We expect our sports teams to constantly give us everything that we want all the time. Now, Kiki said, I didn't know they were 4th from the bottom. Part of being a supporter of a bad team is that you lose a lot. Well, and here's the thing, Kiki. Here's the issue, right? Syracuse was 10-3 last year. But again, they were 3-1 with their starting quarterback. And the sad thing is, we don't know what this season would have been like if Steve had been there. Let's take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back onto the broadcast, we'll take a deeper look at the nation of college football. We'll look at the top 25. We'll see what I agree with and disagree with right after this fast break inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Avicoli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on into the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's K9, ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. You know, we want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I mean, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. I mean, you can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, you know, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, you know, everyone in the world's going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, you know, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. We have a delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Caz location and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point because you get a little something different at each one. You know, we understand how hard it is to, you know, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Happy to be here with you. Great Lakes Honda City open Monday through Saturday for sales and service. Go and visit them today. Let them know that DT sent you. And of course, you can get a sneak peek of all of their inventory as well as any deals they have going on right now by going to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. And I'm very happy to have gotten my cars from Great Lakes Honda City for over a decade now. I have trusted them throughout my life, and I thank all of them for caring. I thank Manny, who is up in heaven with us, who helped me for a bunch of years. I want to thank Ralph, and of course, I want to thank the Townsend family. I want to thank Elijah, as well as Malik and Mark, and many that are at Great Lakes Honda City. So appreciate you. Thank you for being the difference and for being a place that I've continued to go back to, because that's not easy to say about many dealerships out there. So as we continue the conversation here from Syracuse to the greater look at collegiate football, let's take a look at the nation right now and what's going on in the rankings, because Murph and I are going to do something we've never done on the show here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and that's tomorrow on my birthday broadcast on October 21st. Murph and I will be unveiling our top 25 each. Now, we're not going to talk to each other about it beforehand, so I'm not going to know his top 25. He's not going to know mine. The AP has a top 25, which the media votes on, and the coaches poll has a top 25. Murph and I will be giving our top 25 heading into college football week 9 of the 2025-26 season tomorrow on my birthday broadcast on October 21st, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Time worldwide. So do not miss that, because we will be unveiling our top 25, and we'll see how much we agree or disagree on between Murph and I, and how our top 25 looks put up next to the AP and put up next to the coaches poll. So the AP and the coaches kept Ohio State at number one. That's not surprising. Once Ohio State beat Texas in week one and they went to number one, I said, well, if they keep winning, they're not going to come out of there. My issue with Ohio State is how much are they challenged since that win over Texas. Since that win over the Texas Longhorns 14-7, they faced unranked Grambling, unranked Ohio, unranked Washington, unranked Minnesota, Illinois, who's ranked 17th. And if you talk with me about Illinois, I probably wouldn't have had them ranked all this season. Definitely not top 9 in the country at one point. And they beat Wisconsin 34-0. They will now play a Penn State with an interim head coach who fired James Franklin and is not having a good season and is unranked. Then they'll play at Purdue, who's unranked. They'll play UCLA, who's unranked. They'll play Rutgers, who's unranked. And they will play at Michigan, who for some reason right now is ranked 25th in the country. So again, the Big Ten, to me, they play 9 conference games instead of 8, which means they play one less non-conference game. So they're not playing 4 non-conference games. They're only playing 3. And of the 3 non-conference games that they're playing, how much is Ohio State being challenged? Now, they played Texas, but again, what I just tell you, they played Texas, they played Grambling out of conference, Ohio out of conference, and that's it. So, yes, they tested themselves with Texas, but now they're not going to play. I mean, playing Illinois, who, again, I argue if they should be ranked, and Michigan, I argue if they should be ranked. So you will have played one ranked team all season, and the Big Ten gets so much respect that even though you played one ranked team, you may get the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff, which to me is insane. Now, again, that's not me saying Ohio State's not talented. That's not me saying Ohio State's not a good team. That's not me saying that Ohio State can't win a national championship. That's me saying that Ohio State is not challenged like others are. Now, Kiki said, I really hope Fran is his nickname. No coach is going to win if he's called Fran. Fran is his God-given name, Kiki. So I don't know why you don't like Fran. Not a fan of the name Fran. Interesting here. But I digress. So again, Ohio State, how much are they actually being challenged? That is the question. How much is Ohio State being challenged year in and year out, including this year, because they're the number 1 team? And if they keep winning and they stay undefeated, they're going to stay the number 1 team in the country. So do I agree with it? No. Do I think that Ohio State is talented and dangerous pretty much every year? Yes. Do I think that they could be dangerous in the college football playoff? Yes. But do I think that this team's got an easier road to be number 1 and stay number 1? Absolutely. Indiana is number 2 over Texas A&M. I disagree with this because, again, let's look at Indiana's schedule. Old Dominion, unranked. Kennesaw State, unranked. Indiana State, unranked. They beat Illinois, who was ranked 9th in the country at the time, by 53 points, and Illinois should not have been ranked that high. Illinois had 3 unranked wins. Somehow that got them to number 9 in the country. Why? Because they're in the Big Ten. If Illinois was in another conference outside of the SEC and the Big Ten, they wouldn't have been in the top 10 in the country. They might have not even have been thought about. So that's a game where, yes, it's a ranked win, but I don't consider Illinois to be a quality win this season. And then at Iowa, unranked. Then they beat Oregon on the road, 30-20, and Oregon was 3 in the country. And I'm like, that's a really good win for Indiana. Then they beat Michigan State, who's unranked. They will end the season with unranked UCLA, at unranked Maryland, at unranked Penn State, Wisconsin unranked, and at unranked Purdue. Wisconsin is 2-5, 0-4 in the Big Ten. Purdue is 2-5, 0-4 in the Big Ten. They will play Penn State, who's 3-4, 0-4 in the Big Ten. They just beat Michigan State, who's 3-4, 0-4 in the Big Ten. They will play Maryland, who's 4-3, 1-3 in the Big Ten. They're playing the literal bottom of the Big Ten, but they're ranked 2 in the country. Now let's look at Texas A&M, who's 7-0. Texas A&M defeated UTSA, who's unranked, Utah State, who's unranked. They beat Notre Dame 41-40 on the road in South Bend. Now, if Notre Dame gets credit for losing that game. because they only lost by one. The only schools that you're going to hear anybody argue about they lost, but it was only by, those are your Alabamas, your Georgias, your Ohio States, your Michigans, your Penn States, your Indianas now, your Notre Dame. Those are the schools that get the argument. The Notre Dame, the Big Ten, and the SEC, they only lost by. Like Notre Dame gets credit for only losing to Texas A&M by one, even though they lost. Then Texas A&M beat Auburn, who likes to play spoiler. They beat Mississippi State. Those are unranked teams. Florida's unranked, and Arkansas is unranked. Okay? But then you look at this and you say to yourself, is beating a Florida team, right? When you look at Florida, now Florida, the Gators are unranked, but the Gators have a win over Texas this year. So is beating Florida better than beating Maryland? Yeah. Is it better than beating Penn State? Yeah. Is it better than beating Wisconsin? Yeah. Is it better than beating Michigan State? Yeah. And so, I mean, in the way that they've come back and played in these games, they've done a good job. And when you look at the body of work and you look at the, Notre Dame game, like I said, and you look at the Florida game, and then I look to Auburn and I say, okay, what's Auburn's record right now? Now Auburn is 3-4, right? And Auburn, the 4 games that Auburn lost, all to ranked teams, right? And then when you look at Maryland and you look at Wisconsin, you say to yourself, like, have they done anything? So when you're putting these two teams up against each other, I'm giving credit where credit is due, that I think the SEC is harder to go through than the Big Ten. And so I'm going to give credit to Texas A&M that I think above Indiana has done more here. Now, Indiana has the win over Notre Dame, Indiana has the win over Oregon. And so I think that that's something that you do have to look at. So when I look at Texas A&M and I say they have a win over Notre Dame and they came back and beat Arkansas, maybe they put Indiana above Texas A&M because of that win over Oregon. And if they did that in that case, then I can agree with that. Do I think that Texas A&M head-to-head with Indiana, honestly, I respect Indiana. Last year, I don't think they did anything to get to where they got to. Would I put Texas A&M arguably at 2? Yes. But if the reason why they put Texas A&M there is they're saying that Oregon win by Indiana is better than any other win that Texas A&M has this year, I can understand that argument. And then Alabama at 4 and Georgia at 5, I can agree with that. Alabama at 4 and Georgia at 5 makes sense to me because Alabama, being where they're at right now, Alabama beat Georgia. Both of these teams are 6-1. So I feel like to me, this makes sense. That Alabama is above Georgia because they should be, because of the head-to-head. And I think both of these teams are playing well. Oregon at 6. See, I put out my top 10 yesterday, and this was before the AP came out, and it was before the coaches poll came out. So I did this prior to either one of the polls coming out, and this is what mine look like if you put it up head-to-head. So let's take a look at how I had my polling here. I want to make sure that I give you every piece here. So I had Ohio State at 1. I had Texas A&M at 2. I had Indiana at 3. But like I said, I understand the reasoning of why Indiana is 2 because of that win over Oregon. So you look at that and you say, okay, to me, those make sense. So I had Ohio State 1, Texas A&M, Indiana. Then I had Alabama at 4, which the AP has agreed and the coaches have agreed. I have Georgia at 5, which the AP agreed and the coaches agreed. I have Oregon at 6, which the AP agreed and the coaches agreed. And then I thought Georgia Tech was going to crack the top 10. The AP and the coaches poll actually put them higher. So I was wondering, are other people going to give Georgia Tech respect like I will? I put them at 10. They put them at 7 in both polls, so that's great. I put Ole Miss at 7. They have Ole Miss at 8, so right there. they have Miami at 9 in the coaches and the AP. I have Miami at 8, and they have Vanderbilt at 10 in the AP and 12 in the coaches poll, and I have them at 9. So we either have the teams in the same places or we have the teams one seed off. So if I have them at 7, they have them at 8, right? And so very, very close. And when you look at the AP and I have the same 10 teams in the top 10. The coaches poll and I have the same 9 out of 10 teams in the top 10. They just don't have Vanderbilt in the top 10 because they put Vanderbilt at 12 because they think that BYU is better and they have Oklahoma above Vandy. So that's 10, 11, and 12 respectively. So when you take a look at that and you say that my knee-jerk top 10 coming off a Saturday has the same 10 teams in the AP and we're not too far off or we're right on and we have 9 out of the same 10 teams with the coaches poll, then my thoughts, not knowing what the rest of the media was going to do and what the coaches were going to do, are right there in line with each other. So nationally, we are in unison, in lockstep in some places, or at least thinking of the same teams around the same place. So that's good to see as I'm getting ready to put my top 25 together. We're going to take another step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. And, Kiki said that you're in the United Kingdom. So, yeah, there you go. So, yes, his name, Francis, his full name. So, Kiki, thanks for watching and listening, listening, I should say, because you're on Podbean from the UK. You can also watch on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. I'll have more thoughts on the nation's top 25 right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad. Despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here, we just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to, Buffalo. They're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening the doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people, that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing. And so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing, an amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in. And then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and in those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and that's part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry loving friend. Right, Lily?
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time and beyond that. And so with that being said, do want to take a look at the rest of the top 25. As I told you, the AP and I have the same 10, and we either have them in the same spot or close to. And with the coaches poll, I have 9 of the same 10. They do not have Vanderbilt in the top 10, and I disagree with that. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how things continue on forward from here as we take a look at the overall top 25 and how they continue to kind of evolve. Because what am I going to do, right? What's Murph and I going to have? Now, I told you about my 10, but see, we are going to put out our official tomorrow. So will I make any changes? Will I move anybody around? If I have some more thoughts on this, what's going to happen? Now, let's take a look at what the AP did outside of the top 10. They put BYU at number 11 at 7-0. And when you take a look at what BYU has done this season so far here, as you take a look at BYU, I mean, they are 7-0, okay? But BYU, who have they played, right? That's the question that comes up, because the Big 12 to me is kind of underwhelming. Now, Texas Tech lost. The first loss of the season came this week. Now we look at BYU. They beat Portland State unranked, Stanford unranked, East Carolina unranked, Colorado unranked, West Virginia unranked, Arizona unranked, but they just beat Utah at home 24-21. So BYU is 7-0, and they do have that ranked win now. Notre Dame is 12. And I sit here and I question this, because Notre Dame lost to Miami, who was ranked, lost to Texas A&M, and then they beat Purdue. They lost at Arkansas, they beat Purdue, they beat Arkansas on the road, they beat Boise State, they beat NC State. None of those teams are ranked. Then they beat USC 34-24 most recently. USC was ranked 20th in the country. But let's look at USC's schedule. They beat an unranked Missouri State, an unranked Georgia Southern, unranked Purdue on the road, unranked Michigan State. They lost to Illinois, who I don't think is a good team this year despite the ranking. They beat Michigan 31-13, who was ranked at the time 15th in the country, which I don't understand. And they lost to Notre Dame, looking at USC. So you look at USC and you're like, okay, you beat a Michigan team that was ranked too high at 15, and you lost to an Illinois team that I would argue shouldn't be ranked. And they're only wins, and then besides that, they have 4 unranked wins. So beating USC, do I think that that's a great win for Notre Dame? No, but I think having USC ranked helps Notre Dame, because Notre Dame beats them, and now Notre Dame finally has a ranked win. Now people will say, well, they only lost to Miami and Texas A&M by a combined score of 4, but they still lost. And again, the arguments are made for the Notre Dames of the world that lose, but not by much. But if Syracuse lost by 4, they wouldn't be ranked in the top 25. They wouldn't even be considered. That's what I'm saying. There's certain teams that lose, and then they get the argument of they didn't lose by much, which other schools are not going to get the argument of they didn't lose by much. That's not something that comes up for them. We'll take a look at Oklahoma, who in the AP is 13th And I think Oklahoma's still a dangerous team. Their only loss is to Texas, who's their rival, who came over from the Big 12 to the SEC with them. Texas Tech dropped in this, and they dropped substantially. Now, Texas Tech lost. They were in the top 10, and I didn't have Texas Tech very high in my top 10. They dropped from 7 to 14 in the AP after losing their game this past week, which was to an unranked Arizona State 26-22. So they didn't lose by much, and they dropped by 7. And then you look at Missouri, and Missouri's one of those teams in the SEC. They're 6-1, but they're ranked 15th in the country. I look at their wins. Central Arkansas unranked, Kansas unranked, Louisiana unranked, South Carolina unranked, UMass unranked. They played 5 straight games at home to start the season. Sounds like they should be in the Big Ten. Pardon me. They played their first half of the season at home. Speaking of Missouri, Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, UMass, and Alabama were all at home. They lost to Alabama 27-24. They just beat Auburn 23-17 on the road. So they don't have a ranked win. So to me, Missouri should not be in the top 15. Virginia, they've done some good things. They took down a Florida State team who was ranked higher at the time. So Virginia being 16th, I'm not going to disagree with that. Tennessee is 5-2. They fell 6 spots. So keep in mind, Notre Dame is 5-2. Tennessee is 5-2. Tennessee lost to Georgia because Tennessee didn't make a field goal at the end of the game. That's how they lost, because they went in overtime. And they lost to Alabama 37-20 most recently on the road here. So Tennessee, when you talk about, well, Notre Dame only lost by and this and that, it's like, yeah, Tennessee lost because their special teams didn't make a field goal, and you got Georgia in the top 5. So I think Tennessee should be a little bit higher if Notre Dame's going to be higher with a record of 5-2. South Florida's 6-1, and they're in the top 20. That's good. Louisville came from not in the top 25, which arguably maybe they should have been at the bottom of it, where Michigan is, and Louisville was able to get to the top 20 and with a win over Miami. LSU fell the most in the AP, down 10 spots from 10 to 20. And I don't disagree with that, because I think LSU is out of the college football playoff conversation. They're 5-2 right now. Cincinnati 6-1. They're 21 in the AP. Texas went down 1 spot, 5-2. And then Illinois somehow is ranked again. They're 5-2. Arizona State's 5-2. Michigan's 5-2, and they're 23, 24, and 25 respectively. In the coaches poll, it's a little bit different here. They got BYU at 10, Oklahoma at 11 instead of 13 like the AP. They got Vandy at 12 instead of 10. They got Notre Dame at 13th, Missouri at 14th instead of 15th. Texas Tech they have at 15th instead of 14th, and then Virginia's the same, Tennessee's the same. They got Texas up substantially at 18 instead of 22. Then they got Texas and LSU above South Florida. And, listen, I think Texas, they barely beat Kentucky. And so they dropped at both polls. They dropped 1 in the AP from 21 to 22, and they dropped from 17-18, 1 spot in the coaches poll, barely beating Kentucky on the road in overtime by a field goal. But South Florida's still getting disrespected. And, Louisville, they have Louisville lower at 22 instead of 19. And they got Illinois, Michigan, and Arizona State in this thing. Now, Navy is undefeated at 6-0. I would put Navy in there somewhere amidst this Illinois, Michigan, Arizona State. And, Tulane, they're going bowling. Houston, they came off a victory. So I would argue some of those teams in there. I'm not going to give it all away because, like I said, Murph and I will be unveiling our top 25 tomorrow live on my birthday broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I can't wait to do that with you. So very much looking forward to that. On my birthday broadcast, I will be unveiling my top 25 in the nation for college football in FBS. Murph will be doing the same, and we'll see how well we disagree or agree with each other, as well as where do we stand with the AP and the coaches poll looking forward to sharing that with you tomorrow morning on Wake Up Call. And with that being said, I want to thank you all for being here with us. We're going to take our final fast break inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios and wrap things up right after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. Make your way over to GG Cards and Breaks Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, Sundays from 10 to 5. They are closed on Mondays. Let them know that DT sent you in their direction right off of Teal Ave. They're a place where you get to be a big kid all the time. You get closer to your team, closer to your favorite player or players, and closer to the trading card games and the characters that you love. From One Piece to Pokemon, Disney Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, to sports cards of football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, and more. You will find so many reasons to stay a big kid and have fun with your friends at GG Cards and Breaks, as well as make friends. I can't tell you how many awesome bonds I've made simply by walking through the doors of GG Cards and Breaks on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. We'll see you there. And a big time thanks to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, the newest Chick-fil-A in Central New York, is waiting for you to come to visit them today. Megan Sorber and her team open Monday through Saturday every single week and bringing you the limited time only Pretzel Cheddar Club right now. You can go out and get it in original, spicy, and grilled. The Pretzel Cheddar Club is waiting for you, and we're almost to peppermint chip shake season. And it's going to be the first time that the peppermint chip is in DeWitt because Chick-fil-A in DeWitt wasn't open last year for the peppermint chip. So make sure you go and see their giant brick building, dine in, order on the app, or go through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A in DeWitt on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank you for tuning in Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time and beyond on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, including our listenership from the United Kingdom today. I want to thank Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Make sure to download, subscribe, and follow us on all of these wonderful podcasting outlets. And many thanks to our team of support in Central and Upstate New York. I wouldn't tell you to go there if I don't go there myself. Great Lakes, Honda City, Carvel, DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Myers Creek, the home of the Wake Up Call game day broadcast at the Syracuse Inner Harbor location, and we are also proudly partnered with their location out in the country on 33 Rippleton Road with awesome views, especially here in the fall at Myers Creek. Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Mother's Cupboard, the home of my sandwich, the Cuse McMother, bacon, egg, and cheese, inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich, cut it up and have it with some syrup, only at Mother's Cupboard, 7 days a week, 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York. Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A DeWitt, Brian's Landing, Avicoli's, and of course, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of yours. Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. You'll find the Bobcats every single month in what we call the Bobcat Buzz. Student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni call Wake Up Call home, and you will find the Bobcats right here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You could find it all by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our BSC Syracuse playlist. The Bobcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find the Bearcats every Tuesday during Bearcat Time. Student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni joining the broadcast throughout the year. You can find all of our content with Binghamton by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist. You'll also find the Bearcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. Shout out to the women's soccer team finishing in the top 2 in the America East ahead of the postseason. The Onondaga Community College Lasers are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Lasers every other Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That's every other Wednesday, so the next time you'll find the Lasers is Wednesday, October 29th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, with student athletes, coaches, and administration joining the broadcast to tell their stories. And you will find those stories by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our OCC playlist, the Laser Lounge. You can also find the Lasers on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to onondagalazers.com and go Lasers. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, spending my final broadcast at 39 years old on Wake Up Call, but not my final of the day. Talk about that in a second. But my final Wake Up Call morning broadcast at 39 years old, and talking about Syracuse football as well as the overall look at college football. That is just a precursor to tomorrow's broadcast, my birthday show, Tuesday, October 21st at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Murph will be joining me as Brendan Murphy and I unveil our top 25 for college football heading into week 9 of the 2025-26 season. You'll find out how much we have in common, how much is different between my poll and his, as well as how they match up against the AP and the coaches poll. And of course, we'll have another special with the Binghamton Bearcats during Bearcat Time, and we'll round out Tuesday's show as we always do with the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicoli's. But my final broadcast in my 30s will be tonight in the community, on site, on location. I will be back at Pizza Man where I was last week with Off the Rails with Al, my guy Al Romano, before Syracuse and Pitt. I will be back at Pizza Man tonight, October 20th at 7 p.m. with the 14-2 Baldwinsville Bees boys soccer team. We look forward to seeing you celebrate this boys soccer team in Baldwinsville. Let's pack the pub at Pizza Man tonight, October 20th at 7 p.m. for a wonderful show in tribute to the Baldwinsville Bees and in tribute to my 30s, as it will be my final broadcast before I turn 40. That'll be tonight, October 20th at 7 p.m. at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York, with the Baldwinsville Bees boys soccer team. We'll see you there at Pizza Man on stage. In the meantime, find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. From the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I say, God bless, no stress, do your best. We'll talk soon.